I think maybe we've run out of things to talk about on this podcast.
No, we haven't. What the hell are you talking about? We literally have like a bunch of lists to go through still.
Yeah, but all I can think about are cicadas and how they're going to ruin my life for the next 3 months, and how I can't prevent them from coming back up onto the surface, despite all my years of practice.
That's what they made chastity belts for, Nick. Welcome to the Too Bad We Didn't Get the Cars podcast. I'm your co-host, David Capricia-Cars.
And I'm Nick Scarpinato, and we're having an interesting day so far. Interesting times ahead of us. I had 2 cicadas crawl onto my knee yesterday in the same spot. They were not the same cicada. They might have been brothers. They might have been related. More likely, though, they were unrelated, and they just thought that was a cool spot to land on. I tried to land them into a fire pit that I was sitting in front of, and couldn't really nail the aim. So I hit a person with a cicada instead of putting it in the fire. So it's been weird. It's been a little weird. I feel like I'm losing my summer because I have to give it away to these punks coming back up out of the ground after 17 years?
I think, God.
7 years? There's a 7 in there somewhere.
We were in elementary school, man. I remember.
Yeah, you know what I remember is with our friend Josh, we would pick up cicadas by the wing, and they'd be buzzing and shaking and begging for their lives. And as we saw the hope drain from their eyes as they realized what was about to happen, we would throw them in the air and smack them with tennis rackets so hard that there would be bits of cicada guts still on the tennis rackets after we had smacked them. And I have not addressed these violent tendencies that I had in middle school, but we already talked about this shit when we talked about Gears of War. And we were just very angry kids. And I'm not an angry adult anymore. I'm not an angry kid anymore. I'm not even an angry adult. So I don't know what I'm going to do with all these cicadas.
I am. I'm very angry. It's time to unleash hell.
What are you angry about, David? What's got you angry these days? How's work going?
Co-hosts who forget to mention what car we have today.
Wow,
that pisses me off.
That'd be really embarrassing for the person that you're talking about, because obviously I'm a co-host that does introduce what car we're talking about today. It is the Mercedes-Benz W123 wagon. It is...
It's Uncle Ben's car.
It's Uncle Ben's car.
That's the car he got shot in.
Well, shot in or...
Near?
I don't think he definitely died near it.
No, he pulled him out of the car and then he shot him.
Yeah, but this is a brown Mercedes-Benz because it sort of ties in to our movie that we're talking about, the same way that my shirt kind of ties into the movie that we're talking about. If you can't see, that is Totoro and the little Totoro and then the littler Totoro. They're probably not all called Totoro, but for the sake of this demonstration, they are. And for those of you who are just listening, my shirt doesn't actually have Totoro on it. It's one of those tuxedo shirts that's meant to be worn by middle schoolers who think that dressing up for prom is lame.
Don't believe his lies.
Believe that.
Just like Teddy. This man is Teddy over here. Don't believe his lies. Shout out to the Memento fans out there.
Memento fans. Christopher Nolan.
All right.
Chrissy Nolan. That sounds like that sounds like someone in an entirely different industry. That sounds like Chrissy Nolan sounds like a teenage superhero. Chrissy Nolan. She fights crime at night and she's a regular teenager by day. I don't know. Don't hire me to write comics. And then all of the people in the comments that were like, we weren't going to. I see you. And I read your comments.
How was your Milwaukee trip?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. And I'm glad that you asked about something that we didn't mention to each other prior to this and said we're going to talk about that in the podcast. So I went to Milwaukee recently to play a show at Raised Grain Brewing Company. Shout out Raised Grain in Waukesha, Wisconsin, which I think is not too far from Milwaukee. And it was a really fun time. Driving through Wisconsin always reminds me how flat Illinois is, because even just one state above, it's so much more, the terrain is so much more varied, and there's so many more hills and cheese. There's a lot more cheese in Wisconsin. And it was a nice night. It was very breezy, beautiful cover girl. I had a really nice beer and a honey mustard pulled pork sandwich. And then afterwards, I got Dairy Queen because I wanted to go to Dairy Queen and get some ice cream. And I tried the brownie batter blizzard, the B3, if you will. And it was just a nice night. And that's about as eventful as it got. Also, I was gonna make a murder joke, but I shouldn't joke about murder. That's bad. That's a crime, actually. So I didn't do any of that. How was your Wisconsin trip? Your Milwaukee trip?
I'm very tired right now because yesterday, me and the band went to the Saturday show of the Milwaukee Metal Fest, and only reason we were there is because some of you know I run a small YouTube show where people give me albums and I talk about them and shit. And on the last one, the album that came at number 2 was by a band called Death.
Just Death.
Largely regarded as like the pioneers of death metal.
Interesting.
So yeah, a pretty important group,
I'd say.
And their last album was called The Sound of Perseverance. And like I said, it came at number 2. And then very shortly after I heard it, the remaining, or some of, Death had a lot of band members. So some of them, they have a tribute band called Death to All, where they still perform.
Oh, nice.
Like these songs in, honor of, because the lead writer and singer, guitarist, he died in like 2001. So yeah, they like still perform in honor of him and all that jazz. And they're doing a tour where they play 2 albums in full live. And one of them was The Sound of Perseverance.
Ah.
So I was like, holy shit, this album that I just heard that I really liked, they're playing it in full.
Wow.
And the closest one was Milwaukee. So we went there.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I saw them, saw a little bit of Possessed. Testament was there.
We like Testament.
A little bit of Catatonia, although we dipped out early because they were late as shit.
Nah.
And we were tired, and it was up there. And we're all the way down here.
We're all the way down here.
And I got home at like 12:50 a.m., and that was stupid. So, yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool all around. Good to see, yeah.
Did you have any cheese?
I crowd surfed for the first time. I crowd surfed.
So much better than cheese. You crowd surfed.
It was pretty, honestly, awesome. I understand why people do it now.
So what does it feel like to be crowd surfed? Does it feel invasive? I feel like it feels invasive, like when people are just like touching your butt,
Hey man, it's whatever. It's kind of how it goes.
Hey man, it's whatever. If people want to do it, people want to touch the butt.
Yeah, the first time was during Painkiller because they covered Painkiller on the album.
Sick.
And I did it, but I was like too far to the front, so it went by way too quickly. So I went around, came back, and during my favorite song on the album, I crowd surfed again, and it was like much
hell yeah,
more people.
Yeah,
and that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So when you get to the end of a crowd surf, you're at the back of the crowd, right? Did you have to work your way back up to where the band was?
Yeah, I worked my way into the pit because there's always a pit there,
Yeah. Well,
and then I just surfed again. It was awesome.
Just did that all night. Well,
just twice.
Congratulations, man. That's a bucket list thing for sure, especially for people that go to concerts and see surfing happening and think to themselves, you know what, that'd be cool, but not right now. Because I remember when we went to go see the Foo Fighters at Riot Fest there were a lot of people crowd surfing, and there were a lot of people crowd surfing all day because it's a festival and that's what people do. And I have a special place of hate in my heart for people who open up mosh pits. I guess I'm not that guy.
Nick's a soft boy.
I'm a soft boy. I'm very soft. If someone's pushing me even a little bit, I will give way. I will surrender everything to them. If anyone even slightly like, I'll cave, like when you kill an NPC in like an Unreal 4 game and they just like limp body, and it's like I'll do that, and that's not good to do at concerts. So I don't know. I'm not a pit guy. I'm not a crowd surf guy. I'm definitely the kind of guy that will get balcony seats or go just listen to artists that play in theaters. But every once in a while, a good outdoor festival / outdoor show, especially now that it's summer.
It was also inside. It was in like this giant fucking really tall building. There was like 3 stages, each on a different floor.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's That's actually crazy.
Huge. It was a big ass stage.
I wonder, you're going to have to tell me the name of that venue because I have to see
the Rave Eagles Club.
The Rave Eagles Club. Yeah. I feel like I've heard that name before.
Yeah, I even wore like all white because I was expecting it to be outside. Yeah. Because it's a festival.
Right.
With a shit ton of bands. But no, it was a fucking building.
So then everyone could see your sweat from all the crowd surfing that you were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, also, dude, I love metalheads, man. Some of them are just so goofy. There's a dude, this like buff dude in like a fully like decked out back, front, everywhere, like My Little Pony shirt. And I was just like, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Someone was in like a Garfield costume. It's like the shit you see, man.
I feel like it's only metal shows. Or like, I can't remember what show I saw someone dressed up as Jesus.
Yeah, there was Jesus. Jesus was there as well.
Jesus was there as well. Jesus loves his metal. Jesus really, he's a holy dude, but a lot of metal has to do with like holes and. Do you think Jesus likes Cannibal Corpse?
Probably.
There's a lot of songs about putting holes in people. That Cannibal Corpse writes. So Jesus is like, bro, I got that experience. I put that shit on my resume.
Yeah, being there, it really makes me want to make a battle jacket, man. There's so many battle jackets.
Yeah, it's a lot of battle jackets.
That's just so cool, man.
It really is. It's kind of like battle jackets. I feel like the people that make battle jackets also get tattoos, but it feels like it has the same, I guess, similar sentiment to it, where you put stuff on the jacket that is specific to you, and that specific combination is just like, yeah, this is who I am. This is who I listen to. This is what I like. And it's like tattoos kind of work the same way. And I'm sure there were also a lot of people with tattoos at Metal Fest.
Yeah.
I feel like metal shows and like rock shows and punk shows are full of the most it's where people can express themselves. And I feel like I've been to a lot of shows recently, or not a lot of shows recently, but I've been to shows where you can tell the crowd is just like a bunch of normies. And they would rather like look really cute and hot dressing up to go to a show than like wear a Garfield costume. And I feel like metal is just that genre where people feel comfortable. It's the community of it all. And metalheads are typically like so nice too. It's like they're the nicest people in the world, especially when it comes to concert etiquette. I feel like people are generally at metal concerts, they're very aware of what happens at a show like that with the moshing and the crowd surfing, and if someone does bump into you on accident, they'll be very apologetic unless they're too drunk, in which case that's not good.
Dude, there was a dude, like 2 guys, like one dude was like holding up another guy, like walking like out of the pit, and they straight up just both fucking collapsed right on the ground.
Oh my god.
And like people picked them up and they left, and a couple songs later the dude that was like more fucked up came back and went back into the pit.
Oh my god,
people are crazy. There was kids crowd surfing, man. I swear to god, there was like 2 kids under like 13 years old fucking crowd surfing. It's crazy, man. What a crazy show.
Kids are made of rubber, dude. If anyone could handle crowd surfing and moshing, it's them. But me at 28, soon to be 29 in 6 months, 5 months. Oh my God!
You gotta do it while you're young.
Got to do it while I missed it. I missed it. So all you kiddos out there, all you youngins, go to metal shows, go to punk shows, go to shows where people are like throwing each other around, because generally people are nice about it. And also, when you finally do get old and you can't do that shit anymore, you're gonna wish you had. And that's on Milwaukee Metal Fest. I've been Nick Scarpinato for channel 44 News. This is episode 44 of the podcast.
Oh my goodness, we need to start this thing.
We need to start talking about shit. Well, it's a Nick episode. And we are winding down. We are finally getting to the top 2 albums, the top 7 games, I think. Yeah, and then because we had 15. Yeah, anyway, so we're in the top 10. And then as far as...
We've been in the top 10.
We've been in the top 10 for a while. But first we're going to talk about movies, because that's how we always start. And I realized after seeing a promotional email from G Fuel that it is anime, but May is spelled M-A-Y, like the month. So we're talking anime movies. We're talking our favorite anime movies, which I think we have to consider separate from animation, because Western animation and Eastern, like Japanese animation, anime, are very different in the way that they're constructed, and not even just in the typical anime isms of people having flashbacks and monologues in their heads and motivational moments where it cuts to the rest of the cast shouting very enthusiastic and supportive things from across the world as the hero does the final battle. Not even just that stuff, but in movies like the movie we're talking about today, which is Kiki's Delivery Service, there are a lot of movie isms that you just don't see in a lot of Western movies. For example, there are plenty of moments in this movie that just straight up don't have music, despite Joe Hisaishi being one of the best modern composers of our time, at least film composers, I think.
Dude, anytime I hear a piano in a Ghibli movie, it oh my God.
It's so good.
It's crazy, man.
It just gets you. But for as amazing of a composer as that guy is, there are so many Ghibli movies that just don't, like, I feel like I read in an interview somewhere that Joe and Hayao Miyazaki, the director and the writer of a lot of these movies, they don't believe in having music in a scene just to have it. Like, they want it to represent something that's integral to the movie itself, and so when music does pop up, it's like, oh, this shit's really important. Like, you need to focus on this. But for the most part, Kiki's Delivery Service, which I think is it's not, when the conversation about Ghibli films gets brought up, I feel like Kiki's doesn't always get the spotlight. I feel like everyone always talks about Totoro or Spirited Away or Princess Mononoke or Ponyo, I feel like, is one that gets brought up maybe a little bit more. But I fucking love Kiki's Delivery Service. It was the first Ghibli movie I ever saw. But believe it or not, the first time I saw it, I was so bored. A lot of the movie is just Kiki. I didn't know what to expect, but it's like a slice of life movie. It's just her living her life in this new town because she's a witch, and whenever witches turn 16, I think, they move away and they find residency in a town, and then they become that town's resident witch. And so she finds this oceanside town, and it's beautiful, and she lands there, and the whole movie basically is her adventures meeting people in this town and getting to know the people and who they are and what they stand for and what they believe in and how they live their lives and blah, blah, blah. And it's just a beautiful character study every time that I've seen it after. But the first time I was like, bro, this is a little awkward. There's no music playing and she's just like walking. And this is the scene. This is really, because I watched it for the first time with a very Western mindset where there's just noise happening all the time. It's like any show, dude. Think about fucking CSI. Every moment there's like a droning boo.
Yeah,
You know,
I don't watch CSI.
yeah, me neither. What are we, 68?
I don't plan on it either.
Yeah, it's gonna be on for as long as humans exist. If we ever want to get to it, we can. But
CSI,
more
like crap, shit, and insufferable. No, crap, shit, and indigestion. There we go.
shots fired. Come at us, CSI, if you think you can handle the heat. Please don't, because we couldn't handle a lawsuit. But anyway, so the first time I was very underwhelmed, and I was like, this is your man. This is the guy that everyone's fucking raving about, Hayao Miyazaki. And then a couple of Ghibli movies later, after having watched Totoro and Spirited Away and Princess Mononoke, you adapt to his style of directing and writing, and you learn that Hayao Miyazaki is a very deliberate director. And he, very, very few times in my life have I watched a movie by a director that so clearly knows what they're going for that I realize it's more enjoyable to let go and just be taken on a journey instead of trying to overanalyze everything. And that's what his movies are all about. Is just he creates a world. Apparently he draws all of the storyboards before he even comes up with the script. He just has images in his head and he's like, okay, this is where the movie's going. These are the visuals that I want in the movie. And then you watch the movie and you realize, oh yeah, this is what the movie's all about. Is just it's not necessarily about finding the plot or the importance of the plot. That all that stuff kind of falls into place after. But it's about creating a world that you want to get sucked into. And once you're there and you let him hold your hand and guide you through the character's journey that he has ready for you, it's just a really beautiful thing. People call Kiki's Delivery Service a coming of age movie where she discovers who she is, who she wants to be. She loses her powers and she has to figure out how to get them back. I compared it to Napoleon Dynamite at one point just because they both kind of feel very similar in the sense that it's kind of a movie where I wouldn't say nothing happens, but Kiki is she's a not very active character. I feel like things are always happening to her and she reacts to them. Whereas, in other movies, it's all about the main character plowing through the plot and making this very big decisions to do stuff. And only by the end of the movie does Kiki become an active character. And that's part of the beauty of it, I think. And also, the music and the animation is also beautiful. I love the animation in Ghibli movies so much. And we are actually going to see Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind later today because Ghibli Fest is back on.
And Castle in the Sky tomorrow.
Castle in the Sky tomorrow.
And hopefully those have even more banger-ass soundtracks.
Let's hope so. And let's hope that they have banger-ass visuals and characters too, because everyone loves those movies. And everyone talks about how great of movies those are and underrated. But I think Kiki's Delivery Service is underrated. And I think I realized, I think it was the third time that I watched it. I watched it with my little sister. Shout out Gabby. But I watched it with her. And the opening scene of it fades from black onto a field. And you hear the wind and you see the wind blowing through these long blades of grass. And you see a lake and big ass clouds just like floating. And then it cuts to Kiki listening to a little portable radio talking about the forecast. I almost said podcast. Yeah, she was listening to fucking Joe Rogan on the beginning of the Kiki's Delivery Service. But she was listening to the weather forecast, and she's just laying in the grass. And just the way that everything is framed and the way that the direction moves you towards the main character in such a slow way, it should have been obvious to me what kind of movie we were in for. And yeah, and I don't know. I like it a lot. And that time watching it with my sister, I realized, oh, this is a comfort movie for me. And I just get emotional when I start to watch it because I know like, okay, everything's going to be okay for like 2 hours and I don't have to think about anything else. I'm just going to sit down, watch this movie. And it's a crazy feeling finding a comfort movie. Because I don't think I have very many of those, but I want to ask you, after talking about Kiki's delivery service for 2.5 hours, what do you think?
It's funny how you mentioned the first time you saw it, you were bored. I remember, I think Kiki is actually the first like thing of anime I ever saw. Only because like in those old Disney VHS tapes,
Oh yeah,
they always showed previews for Kiki's delivery service.
same thing with the
like,
Pokemon VHS tapes.
Every single one had Kiki on it. I remember as a kid, I saw it and I was like, that looks stupid. I don't like how it looks. Because like you said, it's different.
Yeah.
Like, Western and Eastern animation is very different.
Yeah.
So I was like, that looks dumb. I don't want to watch that.
Right.
And this movie's kind of like the Beatles in that way. I was like, oh, I heard this song, and that song sucks ass. So all their songs must suck ass.
Yeah.
And then you actually like dive into it, and it's like, oh no, that was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm convinced that if I saw this movie as a kid, I probably would have liked Cats.
Really?
I like Gigi.
Oh yeah, because of Gigi.
I like Gigi.
Gigi's awesome. Voiced by the late great Phil Hartman. Yeah, no, apparently there was a lot of improv on his part too when he was recording lines as Gigi. No, but Gigi's great. Gotta love Gigi.
Yeah, like you said, there's like not a lot happens. Just kind of shows up at this town, works at the bakery, delivering stuff, and then there's the kid who's simping for her.
Oh, Tombo. Oh man, I'm gonna remember it before the end of this episode. But
Whatever his name is, and then she has to save him at the end because.
Yeah, and that's the moment that they put in every single fucking trailer on those VHS because they knew that was the only exciting part of the movie. Was the very end
where something actually happens.
Yeah, and the music. It's one of the only moments where music plays for more than like 5 minutes at a time.
This movie also has the worst character in the Ghibli movies that we've seen so far. That fucking bitch granddaughter.
Oh my god.
Oh my. Because there's the whole like plot where
Dude, she's such an asshole.
Yeah, they bake the like fucking pie or whatever.
Yeah,
they go through like all that shit, and she delivers it, and she's like, "Oh, it's just that stupid cake from my grandma or whatever." I was like, "Oh, you."
Yeah, well, and Kiki delivers it in the rain, and she tries to protect it because she gets this job through this bakery of like delivering baked goods because she can fly on the broom. So they get this delivery request to the grandma bakes this. It's a herring pie, and she like goes through all the effort of like staying at the house while the herring is being cooked, and like she helps out the grandma clean, and she becomes really close with this grandma, and then she delivers it to the granddaughter, and yeah, she just has the worst fucking reaction, and it's just like, it's so sad, dude. Oh my god, it sucks so much watching that play out. Yeah, worst character.
Yeah, dude.
Just the worst. You hate her so much.
Yeah, there's like a lot of fun stuff, like when I don't know, because she had to deliver like that toy cat or something.
Yeah.
And then they missed, or like she loses it, and then Gigi has to like get in there and like go to the house and like all that nonsense that happens. Like there's just a lot. It's just a movie full of little moments that are very good.
Well, and it's based on a novel, like a lot of Ghibli movies are. I've heard, and I bought the novel and I haven't read it yet because I guess it takes a lot of liberties with the source material. But the movie does kind of play out like a book where there are scenes or sequences that feel like separate chapters, and that's kind of why it feels like a slice of life movie because it really is just going day to day. And there's like a 20-minute sequence where she's doing the stuffed cat thing, and there's another 20-minute sequence where she's doing the grandma thing, and then there's a 20-minute sequence where she, spoiler alert, loses her powers, and she has to, meet a woman that she had encountered previously in the movie and find her inspiration again. Yeah, and also, not even to mention, there's a really beautiful message in the heart of the movie about when you're an artist or when you're doing something that you love, even when you're doing your favorite thing in the world as a job, it can still feel like work and you can still kind of lose your passion for it. And sometimes when that happens, you just got to take a break and you got to live your life, and you can't focus on getting really worked up about how, oh, I'm not as good as at this thing as I was before, or I should be better. Which is like, as a kid, it's a really important message, because I feel like as kids, we would tend to give up on things that we weren't good at right away because we had no patience and there was no desire to stick with it, even though it was hard, because we wanted to see what would happen on the other end of it. And as an adult, it's a really helpful message, because obviously all of us have things in our lives that we like doing, but sometimes you just get stuck working a job that really sucks, or when you do have time to do that thing that you're passionate about, you are tired from all of the shit that you did in the day prior to that. And some days you wake up and you're like, I don't want to do this thing, even though I know it makes me happy. I don't feel like doing it. So yeah, that's another reason why it's my comfort movie. It's just like, it's the same reason why I watched the Foo Fighters Back and Forth documentary when I was feeling uninspired in high school and I couldn't write songs. It's just a healthy reminder to take a breath, pick yourself back up again, and just enjoy life. Take it all in. Fuck, man. I guess I gotta watch that movie soon because I'm getting all emotional.
Sorry to spoil what Nick's number one Ghibli movie is later on when we rank them all.
Yeah, we will be doing that, but we have to watch.
You ain't gonna find out mine, because mine favorite is not my favorite anime movie.
No.
So it's a mystery.
It'll be interesting. You'll just have to wait. You'll have to wait a couple of weeks before you find out what David's favorite anime movie is.
Damn, I should have got my steelbook. I could have just fucking put it here.
You have the Kiki's steelbook?
Yeah. I bought a bunch of Ghibli steelbooks.
Which I think we see ads for before the movie. So I'm sure we'll see. Anyway, moving on, because I feel like I've talked enough about Kiki's, and if I say one more single word about that movie, I'm going to start crying, because I'm just right there. We're talking about my number 2 favorite album of all time today. And before that happens, I think it's time for a costume change. Transform! Seamless.
Beautifully done.
Thank you.
Beautiful work by me.
And
congratulations.
And it smells. I gotta make sure my hair looks good on this podcast that people are listening to. Oh my god, where did that come from?
Whoa.
We're talking about Origami Angel, the boys, Gami gang today, because Somewhere City, in a very rare quick upset to the rest of the albums that I've been listening to for years prior. This thing I had only heard for the first time maybe 2 years ago, 2 or 3. And other albums that are on my list I've been listening to for way longer than that. And somehow this shot up the ranks and became my number 2 favorite album of all time. And I'll tell you why. The listenability is super high. We've already talked about this album plenty of times. We've talked about it on the podcast, the second episode, actually, of this podcast. We talked about Origami Angel. We did our ranking video on David's channel of all of the Origami Angel albums. At the time. And yeah, and I feel like I've talked about this in my top 10 albums of all time video. So You did. It was number 2. Because it was number 2, yeah, that's right. So if anyone watched that video, you knew this was coming. But for anyone who hasn't watched that video or any of the other videos that we talked about, I'm going to tell you why this album is one of my favorites. First of all, the Gami gang, are a couple of boys who love Pokemon. They watched Danny Phantom growing up. They got Happy Meals. They hang around playing Guitar Hero and Rock Band. And it's all the shit that David and I did growing up. And still do, and
minus Danny Phantom. I never watched that show.
Minus Danny Phantom. We'll just say Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network, because I feel like, a lot of kids our generation those were the two things that we watched. And if you were a Disney Channel kid, congratulations. We're not talking about you today. Not only that, but it's just two guys, and the singer / guitar player loves throwing twiddly melodic guitar lines into their songs and really interesting melodies and chord progressions that are almost like jazzy, and
he is way better at guitar than he really deserves to be.
yeah.
Like anyone else in this entire genre of music, man is running laps around everyone else.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Rylan, you got it, dude. I cannot tell you how. So I wanted to show David Origami Angel because on top of having really interesting and like jazzy chord progressions and melodies and catchy hooks in their songs, they also have insane drums and blast beats and drum fills that are so catchy that sometimes I'll catch myself singing drum fills when I'm washing the dishes or whatever. So I showed David and I said, hey, there's this band that feels like it took both of our musical sensibilities and smushed them together. And also they talk about Pokemon, and they have an album or an EP called Gen 3, where all of the songs are named after Pokemon games from the third generation of games, which is your favorite.
Yep.
And I remember you first listened to them and you're like, yeah, they're okay. And then we went to go see them live opening up for the Wonder Years. And I feel like that's when your opinion changed for the better, because you realized it's just two guys. And you're like, this dude's playing rhythm and lead guitar and singing at the same time.
Yeah. Modern day Geddy Lee right there.
Yeah, it really puts it into perspective just how talented these guys are. And we love how nerdy, we love talented nerds, because talented nerds are the best kind of nerds. Because they look so cool when they're up doing their thing, and it gives us other nerds hope that we can also be nerdy and really good and develop a fan base and all that. So let's talk about the album. And let's talk about specific tracks, because honestly, I don't think there's a single miss on this track. I feel like I compare it to Wasting Light a lot, in that every single track is good, and there might be one or two that like aren't as good as the others, but if I'm listening to this whole album all the way through, I'm not going to skip them. So you open up with oh my god,
The Air Up Here.
No, that's the
Oh, it's Welcome To.
Yeah, Welcome To, and then Air Up Here is the closing track. But what's cool is they kind of loop. It's like a looping album. Then you got 24 Hour Drive Through, which is the first song that I ever heard from them, and it's definitely like the most, if we call Origami Angel pop punk, I'd say 24 Hour Drive Through is like the most poppy song on the album. It's very hook heavy. The melody in the chorus is very catchy. And then you have the 1-2 punch of oh my god.
Oh, yeah. 666 Flags.
Yeah, 666 Flags and Dr. Hoomst, which, come on, man. I mean, they just hit really hard, and just like specifically there's a part in 666 Flags that gave you a bloody nose, right?
Oh yeah, because when we saw him in Detroit, I went really, really ham with headbanging, and I fucking hit my head right into some guy's head.
Yeah.
And you had to spend the rest of the show in the bathroom because it was bleeding.
Yeah. Luckily, everyone was okay. But no, 666 Flags.
Because it ends with the blasting. Which, because I remember I showed this album to my band once when we were doing like these. We all showed each other an album of like whatever.
Yeah.
And I played this one. And then they had the same reaction I did. They were like, "Oh shit, there's blast."
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, it's pretty awesome." And like you said, Dr. Hooms is my favorite song by them.
Yeah.
And the same way it ends with that crazy ass breakdown.
Yeah.
It just rips hard
and
ass.
When they play it live, they slow the breakdown even more. So it's fucking nasty, bro. When they play Dr. Hooms live, which we've seen them 3 times now. Once as a headliner and 2 times as an opener / we saw them at Riot Fest the same night that we saw the Foo Fighters. And at Riot Fest, as they were setting up, I waved hi to Ryland and he waved back, which is probably one of the crowning achievements of my life. But yeah, and then you go further down the album, and you have Say Less and Escape Rope, which, well, I'll Say Less is one of those songs where it's like, okay, it's starting to slow down a little bit. But then you have Escape Rope into the title track, and believe it or not, I think the title track is like their most streamed song.
It's that or Drive Through, I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of the two.
One of them.
But Escape Rope and the title track, they bleed into one another, and it makes it really fun to listen to because it's one of those things where you don't even notice the transition. Yeah, but those are just very fun songs. Skeleton Key and Find Your Throne are both fine songs. I feel like Find Your Throne has a really cool moment at the very end where the band, all the instruments cut out, and then you hear Ryland singing, oh, you're a goddamn, oh, fuck. I forgot what the line is. For my second favorite album, I'm really blanking on a lot of these fun facts, but yeah, and then the Air Up Here is, I don't consider this album a concept album, but the way that the album ends is in the second half of the Air Up Here, they start to sing melodies from every other song on the album, and it's just layered vocals over layered vocals, and it's so cool. And it's like, it's one of the reasons why I wholeheartedly believe that listening and like recording things as an album is so much cooler than just putting out a shit ton of singles and then mashing them together on an album. Because it's like, you can tell that there was a vision here, and there was a vision with this collection of songs, and they went into the studio writing and playing and recording, and it shows. And it's just, it makes it such a fun album to listen to top to bottom. I think it's like 40 minutes long.
I think it's
less than that.
Pretty sure it's like 35.
Yeah,
like, it's around a half hour.
Yeah, so you can listen to it in an afternoon, which I highly suggest doing. Join us, Gami gangers, and go see them at a show, because now they're playing shows. They're still headlining shows, and they're going on a bunch of tours, and they're touring with other people, but their tickets are still like $25, which is crazy. And I feel like, I genuinely believe that they're only going to get bigger and bigger. Right now, I think they have like 300,000 something listeners on Spotify, like a month. And I am so excited to see them on their come up and see them get bigger and bigger. And yeah, anyway, they just put out a new EP. Or not a new EP,
just
a new single called Fruit Wine, which goes pretty hard, and hopefully is an indication of a new album to come. So we'll see.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, if you want to hear us talk about this album more than we did today, just find one of the many videos that both or either of us have done about Origami Angel.
Yeah.
I'm wearing green today. Oh my God. Happy 20th birthday to Shrek 2. It literally came out 20 years ago today. Yeah, well, which by the time this episode comes out, yeah, it'll be a couple of days after. But happy birthday to Shrek 2, which I got to see in theaters a couple of weeks ago because they did a re-release in April. Dude, it still holds up. It really does. Speaking of things that hold up, I'm gonna reach into my pants, which has a belt that was held up.
You don't even know what game you're talking about, dude?
No, I know what game I'm talking about. I just you know. Oh, okay.
What the hell kind of show is this, man?
So my number 7 game of all time is the first time that this franchise is showing up on the list. Not the last time, but it is quite possibly the most controversial pick of any game on my list so far, especially in the top half. I'm talking about Pokemon Sun today. I'm talking about Pokemon Sun as my number 7 game of all time, and I'll tell you why before you turn off the video. You got to think about it this way.
I got to talk about this one too. Unbelievable. This is I think the first time I've known about all 3 of your picks.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
which
crazy.
is, I'm telling you, man, the further up we get to the list, the more
Pokemon Sun thing is weird's going on here.
some things amiss here.
Some things.
Who knows?
I don't have Sun, but I do have Moon.
Right. Well, and that is a tradition that we've maintained since, Gen 2 probably, because you ended up getting gold.
No, I had Crystal.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I started with Crystal.
So it started with.
But I would have picked gold. Yes.
Yeah, it started with Gen 3. We have unintentionally been getting the opposite versions of Pokemon games when they come, because every Pokemon game, like mainline game, comes with 2 versions.
Well, I wouldn't say unintentionally. Sometimes it's intentional.
Yeah, the only time that I remember it being intentional was with Scarlet and Violet, because both of us liked Miraidon more than Koraidon. And then you were like, "No, fuck you! I'm taking the cool motorcycle dragon."
Hell yeah.
And I was like, "All right, I'll take Scarlet," which ended up working out because I like a lot of the Paradox Pokemon in Scarlet. Dude, Slitherwing is one of my favorite Pokemon ever. I fucking love that guy so much. He's so cool. But yeah, so with Pokemon Sun, that was the first Pokemon game that came out that David and we weren't. I felt so much more separated from my friends that play Pokemon than I ever have in my entire life, because growing up there was always you were always getting Pokemon games with me, and then in high school Pokemon X and Y came out, but we were still within like 10 minutes of each other. So like when we were playing Pokemon, that's when we both got back into it.
Yeah.
Was with X and Y. So Pokemon Sun and Moon were the first games that I remember being excited about again to come out, which hadn't happened since Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Those are the last games that I knew were coming out that I was excited to get on release. And so with Pokemon Sun, I downloaded the demo where they have you walk around the first town, and like you get special items each day leading up to the release of the game if you play the demo. And I was in college. It was 2016. I was a sophomore in college. And yeah, and I just remember going back to my apartment and playing Pokemon Sun and just loving it so much. It was the first fully 3D character model you got to play as. You moved not in 8 directions, but in any direction, which made sense because the 3DS had a joypad, so it felt good to move around there. You were fully proportioned. And also, you could play with every fucking Pokemon game in the Pokédex. Or every Pokemon in the Pokédex. Did not matter. This is before... what do they call it? Exit?
That's got to be the only game that does that then.
Yeah. I mean, I think every game before that lets you do it, but these games were connected to Pokemon Home and Pokemon Bank.
Oh, right. Because, like, you couldn't get, like, You couldn't, like, take shit from, like, gold,
yeah,
and put it into like black, you know?
Yeah, no, this was a game where if you had the means, you could get Pokemon from like Game Boy Advance games to DS games to 3DS games. It was a pain in the ass, but you could do it, and you could play with any Pokemon in the Pokédex. There was nothing off limits. So the replayability of Pokemon Sun for me was huge, because I would just start the game over with new teams essentially, and I would raise them from the very first stage of their evolution. So I got super familiar with the cast and super familiar with the areas, and the fact that we had ride Pokemon that replaced HMs was also huge. I don't think enough people talk about that, how convenient that was, that you didn't need Surf anymore, you didn't need Fly, you didn't need Rock Smash or whatever. It was just, oh yeah, get on Tauros and fucking zoom around. I'm trying to think of other... it was the first games with regional variants, which I still maintain is one of the coolest ideas that Pokemon has ever come up with. And I feel like was a decent substitute for Mega Evolutions, which they got rid of in Gen 7.
Yeah, Raichu and Ninetales alone make it worth it.
Yeah, Alolan Ninetales is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time.
I love... like Unicorn Rapidash. Dude.
Unicorn Rapidash is really good. Yeah, regional variants are just, they fucking rock. And I love that we still kind of get new Pokemon. It's kind of like in Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle when a character gets an EZA, it essentially like makes that Pokemon relevant again. Like when they had a Alolan Muck who is a poison dark type, and it's one of the strongest type combinations in the game, and it's just cool that like they are making Pokemon, they're giving them different typings and different moves and signature moves, and
they made Pokemon great again.
they made Pokemon great. It was 2016, and so there's that for it, but also it has such a strong cast. And usually I know when people talk about Pokemon games, they don't ever focus on the story, if there ever is a story in a Pokemon
unless
game.
It's black and white.
Unless it's black and white,
jerk
which
off over it.
Yeah, it's like whatever. I think we didn't grow up with those games, so I have no personal attachment to N or Getsis or all of those characters. But you know who I do have a connection with? I have a connection with Gladion and Lily and Lucamine, or Lucamine. I don't know how her name is pronounced. And that whole family, because I am fully convinced that Pokemon Sun is not a story where you're the main character, but I am convinced that Lily is the main character of Sun and Moon. And I'm gonna break it down for you. First of all, the first cutscene in the game, the first thing that you ever see in the game is from Lily's perspective. And it's her running through the Ether Institute with Nebby in her bag, trying to get away. And then the last thing that you see in the game is the picture of you, her, and Hao, because she's going to Kanto to become a Pokemon trainer. And it's just the way that her theme plays at the end of the game. There was one time I played it and it made me so emotional because I was like, oh yeah, this is her journey. And like she ultimately is the person that gets the box art Pokemon, because Nebby evolves into Cosmoem, which is the second evolved. This is also the first and I think only Pokemon game where the box art Pokemon have an evolutionary line, which was crazy. It was such a crazy twist that like Lily was the one that had Solgaleo or Lunala the whole time, and then it evolves to protect her, and then she's like, you know what? I think you should catch Nebby because you're an actual trainer. I'm not. Yeah, dude. Oh my god. And then you get to the end of the game. I'm just all over the place because I have so many positive things to say about this game. And you get to the end and you find out that Alola is like in the grand scheme of things, it's a newer, it's new to the gym leader and Elite Four thing. And so in an effort to legitimize Alola and like the Alolan Pokemon League as like a real thing, Professor Kukui, who gives you your Pokemon in the beginning of the game, he is essentially founds the Elite Four, which are comprised of like trial members or trial givers, who are essentially like gym leaders throughout the game. The Elite Four is all them except for Kahili, the golf girl with the two cannon. So you get through the Elite Four and you're fighting all of these people that you've already met, that you already are attached to because you went through whole storylines with them. And then you get up to the peak. You get up to the peak of this mountain where the champion battle is supposed to happen. And you walk up and you see an empty chair. And you walk up to the chair and it gives you the option to sit down. So you sit down in this chair, and then who walks up the stairs to meet you at the summit but Professor fucking Kukui, who this whole time has been like, well, this is what you're supposed to do, man. You are supposed to be the first champion of Alola, but only if you can beat me. I'm your final test. And he throws out the starter that you left behind, that you and your rival left behind, that your Pokemon is weak to. And it's just crazy. And the music that they play during that champion fight is so celebratory. And it's like the first Pokemon game where you becoming champion is actually like, it's like a really big fucking deal because you're the first champion of that entire region's history. And on replay, if you go back to the Elite Four, you're still the champion. So instead of you going to fight the champion of the region, people are coming to fight you. So every time that you go to the champion battle, it's someone different. And it's so sick and it's so cool. And it really felt like the last hurrah for the handheld Pokemon games, because it was the last one. The one right after that was Sword and Shield, and they were like console games. So Pokemon Sun and Moon really felt like a celebration of everything that had come before. It felt like a celebration of the Pokemon franchise as a whole. You get to the battle tree, and the first people that you encounter at the battle tree are Blue and Red, who challenge you to a battle. Or I think his name is Green in Sun and Moon. I can't remember.
I think it was always in Blue.
Yeah? It might be.
If they changed it, right? No, because Green was...
Was that Japanese?
Or I guess it would be Leaf.
Yeah, her name is Leaf.
Yeah,
but anyway,
I don't think there's a Green.
You fight Red and Blue, and they aged up. So, like, they're accurate ages in this game where they're, like, young adults, and they're like, hey, so we hear you're the champion of this region. Well, we're the first champions of our region. So I think you got to fight us. And it's so cool. And then don't even get me started on the differences between Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, because that's a whole other can of worms. It eliminates the satisfaction of Lily's story entirely for this Ultra Wormhole thing where you get Ultra Necrozma. And anyway, the best new content that Ultra Sun and Moon added was Team Rainbow Rocket, which is essentially the epilogue of those games, where Giovanni, leader of Team Rocket, gathers all of the leaders of every evil organization in every generation prior. They essentially join together as a team, and you have to go through a fucking gauntlet of fighting each and every one of them with stacked teams, with the legendary Pokemon that they were trying to capture. And it's so sick. And it's such a cool idea for a Pokemon game. But yeah, dude, those are my favorite mainline Pokemon games. The original Sun and Moon. You know, even if Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon added cool things, I feel like they sacrificed more to make those things happen. Also, How becomes the challenger for the championship instead of Kukui, which I think also eliminates part of your character's journey. Become the first champion and fighting the starter that you left behind. I'm gonna stop. I gotta stop, dude. This could go on forever, and no one wants to hear me talk about why Pokemon Sun is the most underrated Pokemon generation of all time.
That guy. See that guy right there?
Hold on.
That is the only... That would be my contender for why it's the best one. Because of that guy.
Rowlet.
Dude, I have a lot of Rowlets.
You really do.
I got a sleeping one right there. I got him. I got a giant plush. I got a smaller plush. I got a keychain. Yeah. I got a little figure. I got the shirt. I got one in my car.
Yeah.
That's 7.
That's 7 Rowlets.
There might be more that I can't even remember.
I don't know what prompted this.
I don't know either.
Obsession with Rowlet, but
it's the combination of Rowlet and Decidueye, the 1-2 wombo combo that just I fucking love them. They're so cool.
They're very cool, which is very rare for you to... We talked about this recently. Your favorite starter for a very long time was Charizard.
Yeah, until this game came out, it was Charmander.
Yeah. And then Rowlet somehow usurped the title.
Which is crazy, because it's I thought, once I have a favorite, it's usually my favorite forever.
Yeah.
It's something's got to be really, really good to dethrone it.
Yeah.
And Rowlet is really, really good.
Yeah. Well, and we talked about how crazy, because my favorite starter for a very long time was Blaziken. I loved Torchic. I loved Blaziken. I ran through the Hoenn Elite Four so many times with my level 100 Blaziken. And it was just, I didn't think anything could top it. And then I played Pokemon Violet with Sprigatito, with its hidden ability and the move pool that it has and the ability that it has and the stats that it has. And I fell in love with that whole line, and Meowscarada and Florigato and Sprigatito. And I, for a very long time, was very hesitant on officially making the declaration. But I also tried to play with Blaziken in that game, and there was just something about using Blaziken that just didn't feel right. It was like putting on my favorite middle school baseball mitt and trying to play catch with it again and realizing I think I've outgrown it a little bit. So officially, hard launch. I think my favorite starter is Sprigatito, like of all time, which is crazy.
I'm just waiting. We're both Team Grass now. I'm just waiting for the new Mystery Dungeon game.
Dude, when new Mystery Dungeon drops,
fucking
and I get to be Sprigatito and have a partner Score Bunny, I think it's
gonna be over, man.
It's gonna be the best Mystery Dungeon of all time. Sorry, explorers of time, you have to take a backseat. But yeah, it's just people sleep on new Pokemon too much.
Yeah,
I feel like new Pokemon gets too much shit, and we are in a year where we're getting Gen 10.
Yeah, this even Sun and Moon doesn't even feel like new anymore.
No,
it's like
it was only 2 generations ago, but
that's damn near 10 years ago already.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, and now we're coming up on Pokemon's 30th anniversary, 2026, which is doesn't feel like it's around the corner. But this year, 2024, the only new Pokemon game that we have coming out, like mainline-ish, is Pokemon Legends Zygarde, or ZA.
Yeah.
And there's no news on a new mainline game, and most likely it's probably going to be coming out in 2026, which will be the exact 30-year anniversary of the Pokemon franchise.
On that new Switch.
Yeah.
But
so
yeah, fucking yeah. Speaking of Sun and Moon, it's very much like your Ghibli shirt here. I equate Sun and Moon to it's like the Spirited Away of Pokemon games.
Yeah.
Well, the first time I went through it, I was like, "Nah, this ain't it."
Yeah.
And then Ultra Moon, aka second time I watched Spirited Away, I was like, "Wow, that was fucking awesome."
Yeah.
And it's not even that I prefer Ultra. I think it was just the second time I played it.
Yeah.
I just got to replay Base again because I don't know, because they were very, very different games.
Yeah.
And I played it, I was like, this isn't Pokemon. I don't like this.
Yeah.
And then I do like Mudsdale, though. Mudsdale's a fucking tank.
Dude, Mudsdale with stamina goes
shit.
real hard, yeah.
Yeah, Mudsdale, Decidueye, and Alolan Rapidash would have to be on my team every single time I play that game.
Yeah.
Which I think I do have to again because it's been 9 years since I played it. So
yeah. Well, if you do it, I'll go through it too, and then if there's anything that we need to trade or whatever, we can just do it. Because I feel like if it's gonna be in my top 10 games of all time, I think I got to replay it. And also, I got a couple other games that I should probably go back and touch after I finish Fallout 4, which I haven't touched in a while. But
yeah, I haven't even played Persona 3 in like 2 weeks.
Yeah. So eventually we're going to get to those and then play more video games and hopefully have more things to talk about on the podcast because we're getting there. We're getting to things that we're running out of. But
yep. But that'll be it.
That'll be it from us. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you from all of us over at Cars Pod Incorporated and affiliates. We couldn't do this without your support and your endless donations. If you haven't donated to the cause, please do so. We are desperate for money and need to buy more Rowlet plushies.
I think I'm done. I think I have enough. Oh yeah, I also bought a shiny Rowlet in. It was like $1.50 on eBay. I was like, hell yes, give me that bitch.
Hell yeah. So, maybe no more Rowlets.
Oh yeah, then the little figure guy you bought me.
Oh yeah,
that's another one.
That's another one.
8 Rowlets?
Don't you have 2 Rowlet shirts? Do you have the?
I have the one with just him and the one with like Rowlet and like the design. It was a really cool design.
He's a good boy.
So yeah, damn near 10 Rowlet things.
Let's make it 11. Fuck it. All right. Well, we'll catch you later. We'll show off that.
We
new
gotta
Rowlet.
go see this damn movie.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh my god.
Nausicaa's hoe ass.